Wait, before you spend months or even years writing your novel, let's assess if it's actually a good idea. Or maybe you have a bunch of different ideas and you're not sure which one to plow forward with. My name is XP Lovecat, and as a Author Accelerator certified book coach, I help writers assess their ideas and work out the kinks before they spend a bunch of time actually writing their novels. So today, let's send that idea through this assessment and see if by the end you're still excited to work on this project. The first step and the most simple is a gut check. Do you love your story idea? Writing a novel is a long-term commitment. So are you thinking about this idea a lot, even dreaming about it sometimes? That might be a good sign that this is something that you're really attached to and something that you're passionate about. If you feel like you might be on the fence for this idea, it's perhaps best to put it on the shelf for a little bit and see if the idea still sparks energy and excitement from you after a little bit of time has passed. Although another way to test this is by writing a short story in the universe or with some of the ideas that you're thinking about. Because if you start writing and you feel like this is something I could write a whole book about, that is also a good check to see if this is an idea that you're really in love with and can commit to for a long time. And the point of this step is just to make sure that you'll maintain that motivation throughout the long haul. As we all know, there's going to be ups and downs on any major project you take on, so this step is just to make sure that you will have the ability to maintain that motivation throughout those ups and downs. Next is the balance between originality and familiarity. So when we talk about originality, I want to be very clear. Your premise is likely not going to be original. So when I talk about the boiled down point or premise of your novel, this could be things like love conquers all or be yourself. Those are ideas that are universal, and stories have been telling those types of premises for a very, very long time. So that does not need to be original or unique. But when we talk about a novel that you're wanting to sell to a lot of different people, then you're going to want some sort of element of intrigue that is different from all those other be yourself stories. So I'd recommend spending a little bit of time identifying what specifically makes your book unique. On the other side of things, there should be a little bit of familiarity, especially when we're talking about genre fiction. There are specific types of expectations from readers and genres and tropes and things that you can use that are familiar elements, and that is going to be a good thing for the book. But there needs to be a balance between the familiarity and originality, which can be a hard balance to strike, but something to consider to make sure you have both elements. Think about making an elevator pitch to a publisher. You're going to want to tell them and ground them in what your story is like, but also give some sort of idea of why it's unique. So if you can come up with an elevator pitch for your book, that's a pretty good sign that you can move on to the next part of the assessment. Next, let's talk about clear conflict and stakes. Without conflict, you don't really have a story, you mostly just have a situation. We want to make sure that there's an actual story, that your protagonist isn't going to just have everything come very easily to them and nothing exciting actually happens. So assess the idea and make sure that there is actual true conflict and that your protagonist is not just going to skate by through the entire story. And of course, we can't forget about stakes. We want to know what your protagonist wants and what's standing in their way, as well as if they don't get what they want, what do they have to lose? If you have really low stakes or no stakes at all, then that's not going to make for a very interesting story. So make sure you're assessing your idea, and if the protagonist does not meet their goal and they lose a lot, that's a good sign that your idea has weight behind it and can carry throughout a novel. Number 4, do you have strong characters? First, let's talk about your protagonist. Are they compelling? Do they have a clear goal, flaws, and arc of change? These things are going to be really important to make sure that you stay engaged with readers throughout the entire novel. Readers should be able to connect with your protagonist, whether that's loving them or hating them, but there needs to be some emotional charge with your protagonist. And if you're interested in learning more about writing protagonists, I have 2 videos posted on that you can check out here. But let's not stop at the protagonist, because your supporting characters matter too. Are they interesting? Are they multidimensional? Are they there just for the convenience of the protagonist? If that one's the case, you might need to do some more workshopping. But if you have spent some time making sure that you will have supporting characters that are going to be interesting and dynamic, then that's a good sign that we can move on. A quick aside here, a big part of assessing an idea is actually making an outline as well. So I have a quick start guide for making an outline in the description below if you want to check that out. Back to the assessment, marketability is number 5. So your idea needs to appeal to other people if it's your goal to get this book out to other people. Now, if you're just writing as a hobby, that is a totally different thing and you can go and do whatever you want. But if you have goals that you would like to either traditionally publish, which this is going to be very important for traditionally publishing, or self-publish and you want to get it into a lot of different readers' hands, then you want to consider, is this idea actually appealing? So the main question you have to ask at this point is, can you identify your ideal reader? So to give you a hint, your ideal reader is not everyone because there's a lot of people on this earth and not everyone is going to like your specific story. So you will want to hone in and really get a good idea of who your ideal reader is, what other books they like to read as well. And why this matters is really because of the impact for your story. So it's not just about selling books, it's about the impact that you want to have with your story. And in order to impact the right people and impact people that it's going to resonate with the most, you need to know how to market to those people. So making sure that your idea will resonate with a specific group of people is going to make sure that your book has the most impact that it can. To assess this, you'll want to look at what your book's genre will be. Most importantly, you'll want to ask yourself the question, where will this book fit in bookstores and be shelved in the library? So making sure that you have comp books, which are books that have been published in the last 10 years or so, that have similar either concepts or points, character arcs, those sort of elements and feel and tone to your book will be where naturally it would be shelved with other books. That way you have an idea that it does have a place and that people will be easily able to find your book. So overall, if your idea has a clear target audience, it's more likely to succeed out there in the vast market of books. Number 6 is scalability. This means, is your idea big enough and complex enough that it can sustain a full novel length? So you'll want to ask yourself, does my story have enough material and room for things like subplots and twists that it's going to sustain for a long haul? Or is the story more contained and would work better in a short story format? You'll also want to consider if this is something that you would want to turn into a series or have spin-offs, which can be a really strong selling point in specific genres like fantasy. A lot of fantasy series do really well and can sustain more of an author type career. So you'll want to be thinking about, again, your goals and what you're looking for out of the book that you're writing. And if that is to have a series, you'll want to really spend a lot of time making sure that there's enough layers and complexity to sustain that long of a story. Number 7 in this assessment is getting positive feedback from others. Writers do not work in a vacuum. There's a lot of different people that go into writing a book, and part of this is the very first stages to get some feedback on this idea. It can be helpful to get different perspectives from friends, writer groups, or even beta readers at this point, just to get a little bit of positive feedback. If there's a specific criticism that keeps coming up about your idea, then it might be that you need to workshop that specific part, or it might be that it loses the love for you at that point if you take it out, and so the idea itself isn't really going to work out. This step can be really helpful as another checkpoint to assess your idea before you spend a lot of time going 1,000 miles an hour in a certain direction. And the final step after you go through thinking all of those things is assessing your commitment. Now, we kind of did this in step 1, but now that we've gone through these other steps and spent some more time with this idea and marinating on it, this is another chance for you to say, am I committed to working on this idea? Writing a novel takes time, energy, and dedication. So after going through this assessment, does this idea sit well with you? Does it feel really good in your body? Does it feel like something you're excited to dive into? If so, I am so happy for you and I am rooting for you as you're writing your story. And if not, that's okay too. Go back to the drawing board, come up with some more ideas, and go through this assessment until you find one that you are committed to. If you found this video useful on assessing your story ideas, I would love if you could like the video so that it gets out to more people. Thank you so much for watching and happy writing.